I like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called Dance of the 41. A gay congressman marries the Mexican president's daughter, but cavorts with a young man at a secret club, and then scandal hits. Based on a true story. They say a true story, but it's loosely around certain events. Just came out, it's an hour 39 minutes. Spoiler alert, let's get it. So we start off with the guy in the mustache named by Ignacio. He's attending this big wig party because he's part of a congressman. And here we have Amanda, his future wife. Ignacio's basically running his campaign so he could become president. And then who abruptly shows up, the president on the right and Felix, his right-hand man, on the left side. So they plan to be married soon, and Amanda is actually the daughter of the president. So as long as he's keeping President Macio's daughters happy, everybody's happy. The thing that nobody knows is he likes having sex with the same sex. Yeah, he's doing that type of stuff. Next day he has a meeting with these guys who are kind of concerned about his candidacy, but they're not going to oppose him. And then as he's walking the halls, he meets a man by the name of Ivarios, or Eva for short. They talk a little bit, he's feeling the vibe. Later on, Ignacio and Amanda get married, and then they get ready to consummate the marriage. But because he likes guys, you can tell he feels some type of way about this. Yes, their bedtime spotting matches look cringeworthy at best. He can't get the winky up, he's not giving the business right. Well, anyway, the next day, Amanda's exploring her new home. And considering the year is 1901, it looks pretty damn good. Meanwhile, Ignacio goes to visit Eva, and they spend some time in a bar. They get to talking, and he's really feeling his vibe. So much that he's about to give him the other business. But they got interrupted by a messenger. The message came from Amanda, who was playing on the piano, and she wants to do things with her husband. They kiss a little bit, but he says he's got to do some paperwork for his father or whatnot. She's like, really? You can't wait on that shit? But the thing is, he's not even doing work. He goes to this spot called the House of 41. Basically, to put in layman's terms, a brothel of gay men. He sits down and talks to the president, not President Macio, the president of this club. And he's thinking of bringing another member in, which of course he's like, the more the merrier, hey. It gets to the early morning, Amanda's sitting at the table by herself. Yeah, Ignacio didn't come back home last night. Then she gets up, starts walking around. She starts unbuttoning her blouse. She walks around. Then she just collapses on the ground. Husband comes back home, turns out she was having a panic attack. And he tells her to stay in bed, you know what I'm saying, you're not feeling well. But obviously the reason for this is because she don't know what the fuck you doing. Then we get this scene where Ava's in a carriage. And he takes up on his invitation to the House of the 41. Oh, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde looking ass. Yeah, I know, that's what they used to wear back in the day, I get it. Anyway, they ask him to strip his top off and is blindfolded as he goes through the initiation. You know, he can't tell nobody about it, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it's now the House of the 42. Ignacio talks about how he knew about the group. He says something about his father dying. A guy by the name of Maximilian gave him his estate or something like that. And no, we ain't talking about Montana Max. After dinner, they get in tubs and intend to do things. Yeah, just leave that to your imagination. Once again, he was out all night. Amanda's pissed off. And she wrote some type of letter. Ignacio finally makes it home. She's like, where were you? Dinner weren't long. Turns out that letter that she wrote was a missing persons report, so she wants to have bodyguards on him because he keeps taking off on the nights and stuff like that. So basically, she wants bodyguards on him. But obviously, he wants no such thing. And because of that, he has to ignore Ava in public, who feels some type of way. So to apologize to his wife, he gets her a diamond necklace. And all is forgiven for the time period. Then he gives her the business, which she approves of much more around this time. Ignacio's just looking like he just want to get it done and over with. Then he meets with President Massimo. He's like, I know you've been talking to the other wise man. Don't be trying to jump over my authority, nigga. Ignacio's like, I would never do such a thing. See, this movie really doesn't cover the business of what he's doing. It's more so about brothels and keeping his wife happy and stuff like that. Speaking of that, afterwards, he's at the House of 41 again, or 42, my bad. But he's about to leave because he feels like he needs to hurry up because his wife might come and do something. But before that, he talks to Ava. Ava feels some type of way. So he goes horseback riding with him. They frolic in the river and do other things. Once again, Amanda wakes up in the morning by herself. As she's looking around, she's seeing furniture being moved. He basically moved her stuff into another room so she can get rest because of these panic attacks. So obviously, she feels like she's being pushed away from him at this point, especially since he hasn't been there like that. So later on, she goes around her girlfriends. They all gossiping and shit. Then you got her old biddy putting ideas in her head like, hey, just enjoy it while it lasts. You know, he could be with somebody else and da-da-da-da, all that goofy shit. She was already thinking the worst at this point, and then that conversation didn't help matters. Later on, Ignacio has a conversation with the president, Massimo. He's like, I'm gonna put you on this assignment, but let's not get ahead of yourself yet. What assignment? They really don't go into detail. Then at the House of 42, we get a play with cockfighting. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. They're all just drunk, having a jolly good time. Then the next day he's with his wife at the opera, and Felix comes down and sits by. Now, I'm not sure what he told Amanda, but the next day, she goes to his desk, and she sees these love letters from Ava. Aw, shit. Next day, Ignacio comes home, and he finds out that Amanda's been talking to Ava. You've been found out, sir. Then he's standing over her like he gonna do something. Like, nigga, you ain't got no leverage. You trying to get up in rank, and that's the president's daughter. Get your mind right. She's like, man, you don't sit your goofy ass down, and that's exactly what he does. He gives this story about how he's a lawyer. Yeah, you're right. Like, she gonna believe that bullshit. He's like, dude, how you gonna come by the house? He was like, it was addressed from you, dog. So she's got the letters. She put them in a box, and now she's holding it for ransom, honestly. Blackmail, basically. He wrestles the key out of her hand, but she's like, come on now, you think I'd be that stupid? She's like, I got the letters where I'm keeping them, but you'll never know where to find them. So he's so frustrated, he takes a nap. Then he goes outside later on and he's like, what the heck is Amanda doing? And she's shooting targets from a tree. Now, why is she up in a tree? I have no idea. He's like, man, this is more bullshit. Later on after that, she goes into church to pray. Then she comes back to Ignacio and gives him an ultimatum, tells him flat out, give me some children, or I'm just going to give the president the letters that you have in there. He doesn't agree to it, but he doesn't dispute the decision either. Then at the House of 42, there's another play going on. Take what you will from it. So apparently nobody really knows yet, but there's word going around about Mr. Ignacio. And they're like, you might as well drop out the race because there's no way in hell you're going to win this election. Later on, Massimo and his wife drop by to have dinner. It's kind of uncomfortable at the dinner table, but then it's kind of not. So right off the bat, he asks Ignacio about grandchildren. All he could tell him is he's working on it. The next morning, she wakes him up. She's like, God damn it, you gonna give me a kid. He's like, nope, and tosses her out the room. Dragged her out the room and closed the door. And she said, fuck that, I'm locking you in. You ain't getting out. But he ended up busting through the door. She was about to hit him with a vase, then dropped it, and was just sitting there looking like, man, what are we gonna do? Later on, she meets up with her dad, and she's like, man, I'm worried about Ignacio. Not sure what else they talked about, but I feel like she kinda spilled the beans. Meanwhile, Ignacio's walking around somewhere. Turns out he basically snuck out the house, got away from the guards to meet up with Ava. So since his presidency is pretty much done deal, they're planning to both leave the country at 7 o'clock tonight. Ava's more than willing to go along with this plan. He gets a one-on-one with Felix, and let me tell you, the conversation is intense. Then when he's going back to work with his associates, he tells them to cancel my nomination for presidency. So yeah, they're definitely trying to leave together. So now it's time for the House of 42 annual ball. They all get together dressed up like drag queens. Even Ignacio's all dressed up. Literally, it's just a bunch of guys dancing and shit. Yep, even the president joins in. Somehow Felix got word, and he found a hideout, the House of 42. He got the niggas surrounded, pointing out the guns. Yeah, Felix and the boys like, we ain't tolerate this shit. And he sees Ignacio out the bunch just pissed off. So afterwards, he tells the urgent news to the president. He said, we called out 42. The president's like, nah, 41, fuck out here. He's like, yeah, man, 41. Ignacio not being put on this list, fuck that. And they lock them all up. Then they get exposed to everybody in the rest of the city. Of course, Ignacio was expunged from all this. Because for one, the president probably don't want to be embarrassed by this. And two, you know what I'm saying, he wants his daughter to be happy. But I'm pretty sure she asked her dad for him to be expunged with this bullshit. Bottom line, it was beaten, bruised, and broken. Now, the thing I really don't get is the hair thing. They were cutting off a little bit of their hair, and I'm like, what's the explanation for that? I'm still trying to figure that out. Because it wasn't like they had long hair. They had decent length hair, so it was like I wasn't getting the definition or reasoning behind it, but I'll look it up. Maybe it's for humiliation, who knows? She had all of them locked up except for Ava. They sent Ava over to Yucatan. Obviously, Ignacio was feeling some type of way about it, but he can't do a damn thing. Then she finds out after they sent Ava over there, they killed him. Because they don't tolerate that over there in Mexico. And the last thing you hear her say to him is basically, do you want to go to the opera or the summer house? The summer house being Tacubaya, which I think is a city in Mexico. It's crazy. Dance to the 41 on Netflix. Check it out. Like, Chris, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. Slick DZ, mister. Big, you got that slogan.